record to this computer. Okay, so just a quick reminder, all of these business boosters are recorded. They are uploaded to the help desk / knowledge base. There is a whole category specifically for business boosters. And so all of them starting in January have been uploaded already. So once this finishes up and it downloads to my computer, you'll be able to watch those in there. And they are tagged based on the topic. So like you should be able to search too and be like, I want to understand about copywriting. And this would be this would probably be the only thing that shows up actually, because the rest of the knowledge base is not going to be covering Katie's favorite topic. So yeah, hi Jess, great to have you on here. So are we ready to dive in? I'm thinking that we may have Liz and Tanya, but I'm not positive. So stand by. Okay, so we are recording and I'm going to pass it off to Katie.
Thanks. Thank you, Christy. She's right. I could talk about this till the cows come home. I nerd out on it big time. So thanks so much for being here. What I'm going to talk about today is writing copy that converts. I'm going to share my screen in a minute. Got a couple of slides to go through, but I wanted to let you guys know if you have questions during, like jot them down, or even if you're thinking about stuff right now, jot them down because I'm going to leave, there's going to be lots of time to talk about things, answer questions. And if anything comes up and you throw them in the chat while I'm talking, please do so. Christy, can you keep an eye on that, please?
Absolutely.
Thanks so much. I'm going to close all the cajillion windows on my computer so I know what I'm doing. And we're going to get going. Actually, question. Who is currently writing their own copy for their business? Show of hands. Great. Super. So this is all applicable. Excellent. All right, here we go. Okay, writing copy that converts. Let me make sure I can see all of my stuff. I can see all of you. Okay, so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to go over kind of the basics, some do's and don'ts, some like best practices type of thing. There's going to be a lot here that's sort of general copywriting, general content creation, and then I get a little bit more specific into, I think, the types of copy and content we create as entrepreneurs and business owners. I think there's a couple of mediums that we all sort of like, we all write. So we're going to cover that as well. So that's it. The purpose of copy. We're going to talk about what makes good copy and good content. And I'm also going to like dive a little bit into the differentiation between copy and content and how I'm going to use it during this. Where to start in writing your copy, and then some best practices, do's and don'ts. And I think most of you know me. If not, I'm Katie. There's some of my rundown. I'm a certified digital marketer. I'm a content and copywriter. I'm a former teacher, a wife, and a mom. And I'm a lover of all good words, whether they are written, sung, spoken, my favorite thing in the whole wide world. So I am doing exactly what I love, which is nice. Okay, let's talk about the basics of copywriting. For our purposes today, I'm just going to use copywriting as sort of the blanket term for all of the writing that you do within your business, all of the business writing that you do. The purpose of copywriting is to persuade, sell, engage, and nurture. When I talk about copywriting, those are the 4 things that I like to focus on, because really you're doing one of those 4 or a combination of them in pretty much everything you write for your business. So whether you are teaching, selling, or nurturing and connecting with your audience, the copy you write and the content that's created with that copy should always have a purpose. And I'm going to come back to this again and again, because purpose is the point. Otherwise, there is no point wasting your time and energy creating anything if what you're creating doesn't serve a purpose for your business. The other thing, just to make this clear, I'm going to talk about copy. When I say copy, I mean the actual writing you're doing. When I say content, I mean the pieces of content that copy is written for. There's also copywriting and content writing. I'm not getting into that. It's a little too, like, if you're a marketing nerd like me, it matters. But for our purposes, we're just going to call it copywriting for the content you need to create. So let's break this down a little bit. These are some examples of copy that persuades and sells. These are things like your landing pages, your sales pages, sales email, and most social media copy. This particular type of writing is very purposeful. It's usually focused on that selling of a product or a service. And the purpose of it is for your audience to take a specific action. So you are writing it to get your audience to do something. That is really the sole purpose behind this type of writing. I put social media in there because this type of writing also tends to be a little bit quicker and has a pretty clear CTA. Whether you are like entertaining, informing, or teaching, with social media copy, it needs to be very clear, very concise, and usually comes with a CTA, which we'll talk about a little later on. So that's your persuading and selling kind of copy. The other type of copy is that the copy that is written for content that nurtures relationships, builds relationships with your audience. So I really do think, especially if you are a service-based business, you're doing both things pretty much simultaneously and pretty consistently. So it's important and helpful to know which kind of writing serves your end goal, serves the purpose. So for copy that nurtures and builds relationships, these are things like blog posts. This is, again, a longer form piece of content. This is where you are educating, you're increasing your authority, you are showcasing your expertise, you are positioning yourself as an authority in your industry, somebody that someone can come to and get the information they need, have their problem solved, address an issue. I love a good blog post. Also for SEO, that's a whole nother business booster in and of itself. I won't even get into it, but blog posts definitely fall under that nurture and build relationship category. Email sequences. So an email sequence is a series of emails, not just a single email. This is another type of copy that is very much focused on creating that one-to-one personal connection, building trust, building likability. Your audience can get to know you so incredibly well through your emails. I've talked a lot about, and I read a lot about and pay a lot of attention to the idea that like email is dead. Like, I think with this, like, social media obviously is the cornerstone of, I think, everything, a lot of what we do online. Email is still is your highest ROI and your most consistent medium of content, and you own it. That's another thing to keep in mind. If you do a lot on social media, and I do, you don't own your social media content. You don't own any of the copy you put on socials. So having a good email practice or email strategy is very beneficial to your business, because if any of those platforms go kaput, so does all of your content and copy. So email sequences fall under that nurture umbrella. Any sort of problem solving content that you write. So these are things like how-to guides, ebooks, tutorials, even writing copy, like if you're doing a webinar, that is problem solving content. This again is something that not only lets your audience know that you are an expert in your field, you have the answers they're looking for, but it makes you a go-to, which that's the point. Like, you want them to see you as a go-to to solve their problem, their issue, whatever it is they have. Another example of this are case studies. A case study is kind of just like the story of a client's success, or sort of like an extended testimonial. It looks in depth. at let's say a particular client, their experience, where they started, their experience working with you, and the transformation that they had thanks to the work they did with you. So case studies are the type of copy that, again, demonstrates your abilities, but also provides social proof to your audience that you do what you say you're going to do. Here's a great example of my work in action based on this particular client. Please get client approval and make sure they say it's okay before you write a whole case study about them. Very important. Any questions yet about anything? Yes, Christy.
I have a question. Can I just add a couple of thoughts, just especially because I see where people struggle or, that sort of thing is, I think something that stands out on this slide is that you show email in both the nurturing and also in the selling. And so recognizing that it can serve two purposes, but to Katie's point about understanding the reason why you're creating that content. So like, is the intention behind this email, is it supposed to nurture or is it supposed to sell? Because if you're not really clear on what that is, then all of a sudden they're all kind of murky and you're not actually being really clear when you're asking. And so on, or you're asking all the time and not providing value that's not always selling. So that can kind of go both ways. And then the other thing that I just wanted to point out about the social media element is, so Katie mentioned something about you don't own your content and you can store all that stuff all you want. But at the end of the day, what you really don't own is the list of people. So you may have 3,000 followers and all of that sort of thing, but getting them, so it's not even about the platform collapsing, it's really about your ability to monetize that audience. And so if they are stuck in social media and you're limited to who and how you communicate with them, there's a higher risk with that as well. That's all I have.
Very good points. And actually, I'll talk about that now. We're going to touch on it, but that, no, totally fine. Actually, it was a great segue. Thank you so much. Talking about CTAs. As we go through this, CTAs come up a lot, call to actions. In relation to social media, sort of best practice, always do is have a clear CTA. When it comes to social media, to Christy's point, having a CTA that leads your audience to your website, to a lead magnet that then puts them on your subscriber list, utilizing the reach of social media and then utilizing a CTA, which then tells your audience what to do, you kind of are, again, setting that, it's your funnel, you're creating that path you want your audience to take. You found me on social media, you love this content, that's great. Here's the CTA that's going to say, go download this thing, go join my newsletter. And that is when, that's the list building that Christy's talking about. And that's the list that you own. That's yours. Once they have consented to giving over their email address, it's yours. So good point. Thank you for bringing it up. And we'll talk about CTAs as we continue to go through. Anything else so far? Okay. So what is good content? So now we're going to talk about like content as a whole. So you're writing copy that's going into different pieces of content being emails, landing pages, blog posts, lead magnets. I'm leaving out so many. Christy.
I'm sorry, I was writing down what
So just content in general, the content that you're creating for your business. And this is just across the board, regardless of the content you're creating, these are things I want you to keep in mind. Make it clear and easy to consume. When your content is well written, has a very clear message, and your audience can consume it easily, can read through it easily, it makes it more impactful and it helps your clients better absorb what you're putting out there. So things like using a lot of white space, bullet points, infographics, avoiding heavy blocks of text. This is especially important in emails, landing pages, blog posts. We unfortunately have become a culture that skims, and something you have to keep in mind when you're writing writing copy for content is making it skimmable. You want to be able to make sure that whether somebody sits down and reads every single word you've written, or they give it a 15-second peruse, that they are able to pull out the most important information from that written piece of content. So clear and easy to consume. Number two is it focuses on them. I've edited a couple of things recently that are like, well, you're just talking about you. You're not writing this for you. You need to be writing this for your audience. This goes back, and we'll talk about this in a minute, about knowing and understanding your audience really well. The content that you're writing right now for your business really doesn't have anything to do with you. It should focus on your audience, your client, your customer. It should focus on what they need from you, what you want them to get out of this thing that you're reading, or excuse me, that you're writing. Remaining in that teacher, coach, mentor role makes it easy to focus on them. If you are in that space of, I am going to impart the knowledge, the expertise, the experience I have, it makes it easier to focus on them if you remain in that headspace. Number three, good content tells your audience what to do next. So that goes back to this CTA. Each piece of content you create, no matter what it is, should give your reader a very clear next step. So whether it's a blog post that says, click here to download this thing, click here to watch this thing, click here to join my email list, whether it's an email that then sends them to another piece of your content, your audience will do what you ask them to do. We are now sort of trained as consumers of content to sort of look for a CTA. Like, we are now used to, okay, I need to click this, or I need to follow this, or I need to go here. You should, no matter what, even if it's as simple as like, hey, leave me a comment, give them something to do. Number four, it has a purpose. I'll say it again. I think I say it like twice more in the next couple of slides. Good content has a purpose and a point. It not only will it help you write better because you know exactly what you want this piece of content to do, it also helps your message stay clear for the audience that's going to be reading it. So those are my four, like, general, what is good content. Any questions before I go on? Super.
I just want to comment that that focusing on them is easier said than done.
It is.
It's not how we're trained to write or talk to people. So when Katie says that, and you hear me challenging you to go back and look at your copy, or you hear Katie when she gives people feedback on their sales pages and stuff like that in the Facebook group, it's hard. Until you've practiced that in your mind, it's hard.
And actually, thank you. And I'm going to clarify a little bit. When I say stay in that teacher, mentor, coach, I actually had this conversation with a client this morning, meeting your audience where they are. So you, as the expert in your industry, sort of exist in a vacuum. You are used to knowing this stuff, consuming this stuff, regurgitating this stuff. You know this stuff inside and out. And I think it can be very easy, and I do it myself, and I have to catch myself, to just assume that other people know this, other people are at that level, other people are easily going to understand, like, pick up what you're putting down. No. Meet your audience where they are. That's another way that you can sort of avoid the I in your copy. Also using the word you more than you use the word I in your written copy. But coming from a place of, I'm going to meet you where you are and speak to you that way, give you that message. Because odds are, if they're interacting with you or they're coming to you, they're not an expert and they're looking for you to be the expert. So that is another way to think about it, is meeting them where they are and going from there. Yes, Christy.
So, and the other part and this is why I think it comes up a lot, is that, like, when you are selling something, it's tapping into your imposter syndrome. It's tapping into your insecurities. It's tapping into your, I just need one more certification. And then we do all these things. And so when we are talking about ourselves, it's because we are trying to qualify ourselves. And that's not the job of your copy. Your copy is actually there to qualify your ideal client. So if you focus on them and less on yourself, because like you have to sit down with that mindset that I am qualified and I'm capable and I am the expert, to Katie's point. And that helps you remove yourself from the equation, and puts you back in that place of guide and Yoda, and not in these are all of my credentials. These are all the classes and courses I've taken. And this is why I am the most prepared to be your X, Y, and Z.
Yes. Yes. It's so, I literally had this conversation with a client this morning, and she was freaking out because she's creating content around this program she's launching. And she's like, I have no idea what to say. I have no idea. And once we like pulled back and looked at all of it from a teacher, mentor, meet them where they are place, we ended up with 120 pieces of content idea.
Wow.
Going from, I have no idea what I want to say, to, because you have to take that step back and look at it from their perspective. So thank you, Christy. Good points.
Sorry. Thank you.
No, don't apologize. Never apologize. We need to stop apologizing in general. Okay. So where to start when you're writing copy for a specific piece of content? Where are you going to start? I want you to start by thinking these 4 things. Number 1, knowing your audience. Writing copy, creating content, you cannot create it for them if you don't know who they are. And this goes beyond like just regular demographic. This goes into desires, wants, needs, frustrations, their own personal blocks and struggles. The better you know the audience you're trying to serve, the better off your content and written copy is going to be. Number 2, and this is another thing that I edit quite a bit, focus on the benefits of your thing more than you focus on the features. Focusing on the benefit shows the transformation that you provide. You could list out every module that you have in this new thing you're doing. That's super great. What is this thing you're doing going to provide your audience? What is the transformation they're going to get out of this thing? Benefits over features. And I'm going to talk about that more too. Number 3, leave out the industry jargon. This goes back to that whole like expert vacuum thing. Unless you're speaking to somebody else, unless your audience happens to be within your industry, leave out the industry jargon. It tends to alienate readers. They feel like, I've actually had people tell me like, I don't feel smart enough for this person because there's too much industry jargon within that written piece of content. And it leaves them feeling like they don't have a place. And always keeping it conversational. We're no longer like in rooms building connections with people face to face. And so instead, what has replaced actual conversation in a lot of ways is this written copy. So keeping your written copy conversational and in your brand voice, brand tone. If you were to sit down with somebody in a room and talk to them about this thing, how would you speak? That is not only a great way to reach your dream ideal client, but it's a really great way to build brand awareness, to lean into what your brand tone and brand voice is. And number 4, know your value proposition and highlight it. Your value proposition is your clear statement of your unique benefit, the unique benefit you provide with your product or service. It's what differentiates you from other people who do similar things. This is just a way that you're going to stand out. If you don't know, I challenge you to spend some time figuring out what your value proposition is. Because once you know it and you know it well, you can use that throughout your written content and it's going to set you apart. It's going to be the thing that people who need you and are looking for you are going to latch on to. So when you're starting, I want you to focus on these 4 things and go from there. Any questions? I'm going to pause real quick. Super great. Okay. So now we're going to get into some do's and don'ts of writing great copy. There's a lot of information here. I wasn't crazy about how this slide turned out, but it was the best way to get everything I wanted to say onto one slide. So these are some general do's. These across the board apply to whatever copy you are planning to write. A lot of this I'm reiterating because it's really important. And I'm going to reiterate it because it's really important. Knowing your target audience. You have to know who you're talking to if you're going to sell, engage, and connect with them. Do focus on the benefits, not just the features. If they wanted the features, that's easy enough for them to click on and read down a bunch of bullet points. When you're writing copy, especially copy that you're using to persuade, to sell, to engage somebody, to bring them into a specific thing, you have to be showcasing how this thing is going to benefit them, transform them, and why they need that. They probably know why they need that. You need to show them this is exactly why you need that. Do always use a clear and compelling CTA. This is going to change depending on what you're writing. I just finished a blog post about storytelling in your content. I have a workshop about storytelling in your content. So that's my CTA at the end of that blog post. If you want to learn more, click here by my workshop, you can learn more. If I'm sending an email that I want them to go check out my latest Instagram post, I'm going to have here, click this, go there. Your CTA is going to change depending on the action you want them to take and the purpose of that piece of content. But keeping that CTA in there, keeping it clear is going to give them next steps, which audiences are looking for. Do use persuasive language, not selling language, persuasive language. So you are, especially in sales copy, you are persuading someone to make a purchase, join a thing, whatever it is. Using language that doesn't tell them what to do, but encourages them to do the thing is going to be much more effective. And they're going to, and audiences respond to that better. And do personalize when it's appropriate. This, of course, for email, absolutely. Like if you're sending emails, use that custom value, and it's contact, not user. I learned that the hard way. And insert that name, because I know we've all been on the receiving end of things that feel really generic, and they feel really generic. And if you are using this copy and this content to build relationships and nurture community, whatever you're trying to do, feeling generic or feeling like this was just a blanket statement, it doesn't go very far to accomplish that. So these are some general do's across the copy that you are writing. Now we're going to talk about the don'ts.
Do you have a question?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Kat asked, can you give an example of persuasive language versus sales language?
So actually, going back to that benefit, speaking about the benefit. So instead of just saying, hey, join this thing because this happens, boom, 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 inside this thing, it's, if you join this thing, here's what you're going to get out of it. Here's the transformation you're going to see. Here's the benefit to you. Think of it like, I always think of persuasive language as like a little bit more squishy than straight selling. Like stay a bit squishy, not so it doesn't feel right for your brand or your business, but I mean, think of it in conversation. Like if you tell somebody to do something, or you have a conversation with them and you're using language that helps them see themselves in something, that persuasive language and that approach is just going to be more effective. Did that answer your question? Okay. Okay, so let's talk about don'ts. I broke this down general and then specific, and these are the, I pulled out what I think is probably content that we, and I think we're pretty much all service providers here usually are writing. If there is not one, let me know and I can get you some don'ts and do's for that specific type of writing. But I felt like this was just like a good general catch-all. So general don'ts, don't be too salesy. The ultimate goal of your writing is to promote a product or service. Being too salesy can turn off the recipient and make the copy less effective. Sounding like a used car salesman, like that's a euphemism for a reason. And nobody thinks of sounding like a used car salesman as a good thing. That's where that persuasive versus selling language comes into play. Salesy language also tends to be a little bit more aggressive. If that is part of your brand, sure, go right ahead. But then your audience should know that about you and should expect that from you. So in general, stay away from being too salesy. Don't be vague. The copy you're writing should be specific to the purpose you're writing it for. Again, going back to that skimmability, vague copy makes it very difficult for somebody to skim a piece of writing and pull out the information you want them to pull out. If you're writing with specificity and with purpose, you just naturally avoid being vague. In general, you want to avoid that. And just don't ignore proofreading and editing. It sort of kills your credibility if somebody gets something and there's a bunch of typos in it. I am a content writer and I've done this myself. It is human nature to do it. I know we have so many backups. It happens, but just put it at the top of your copywriting list to make sure that you are editing, have somebody else look at it, have somebody else read through it. The other thing that I tell people is read it aloud to yourself. You will catch errors when you read it aloud as opposed to just reading through it in your head. So anything you write, read it aloud to yourself. So focusing on these specific types of written content for sales copy, I'm going to go back to using that, or to saying don't use jargon. It's confusing to the audience. It makes them feel alienated. And it's going to make your copy less effective, because if they're not understanding what they're reading, the odds of them then buying into and being persuaded to buy that thing go down as well. So skip the jargon. For emails, don't send too many emails. Not only is this just good email hygiene in general, but two things. Number one, they usually just go unread because it's just too overwhelming. And then you're losing out on valuable connection, sharing valuable information, and from them just unsubscribing in general because it's become a nuisance. This really speaks to having that solid email strategy, knowing when you're speaking to your email list, how you're speaking to your email list, the content that's going into those emails, having strategy around that. For landing pages, so this is anything that you're sending somebody to that speaks to a specific product or service. Don't be too verbose. In general, don't be too verbose. No one is coming to your copy to read a novel, unless you're writing them a novel, unless you're writing like an ebook, something that's supposed to be very meaty. Landing pages specifically should be concise and to the point. It should be focusing on the information they need and the benefits they will get from that thing, more so than like weaving that storytelling into a landing page. For blog posts, my biggest one is white space. Don't write overly long paragraphs. Big blocks of text are exhausting for the eyes, and people just simply don't read it. It's behavioral. They will not read a big block of text. So this is where, when you're writing blog posts, you want to look at short, concise paragraphs. You want to look at bullet points, pull quotes. I love doing pull quotes in a blog post. It's a great way to highlight a specific piece of information, and it's super skimmable. And also breaking it up with infographics or pictures in general. But yeah, for blog posts, even if it's a long, super meaty blog post, you want to avoid those big chunks of text because there's usually good information in them, and odds are a reader is not going to read every single line in that paragraph. I see there's a couple of questions, Christy, or in the chat.
Yeah. Okay, so Judith is interested in understanding a bit more. Can you speak more about the emails that are happening during the launch and follow up for people who sign up for a course?
So sequences, right?
I think so. And so here's my takeaways. And I will also sort of caveat, because I get to spend time with you guys one-on-one and that sort of thing, is that I would say that you're not who she's talking to when she says, don't send too many emails. Like most of you
Yeah,
could benefit
sorry.
from sending more emails. And so like, I think what she's being concerned about is like, okay, so if I'm in the middle of a launch, like, what do I do if I send too many emails?
Okay, good point. Thank you. That speaks more to like your regular correspondence with your subscriber list. When you're in a sequence, the frequency with which you're sending emails should be determined prior. Depending on what it is, I usually say every other day, unless you're getting really close to the launch of something, then you go to that every day because you're building excitement, you're reminding that's where the anticipation comes in. So when I talk about don't send too many emails, I mean, like, don't just blast off an email every time you have a thought. Don't, like, if you're somebody that sends regularly to a subscriber list, like once a week. If your purpose is just like that regular correspondence, once a week, maybe twice a week if there's something else going on. But when it comes to email sequences, that's kind of its own animal because that has a very specific purpose.
Do you mind if I add a little bit to that?
Yes, please do.
So I think the key to your email content is really about making sure that you are pushing people off your list when they are disengaging with your content. So knowing and understanding when somebody is reading those emails versus when they're not. And that's where those clear call to actions are going to come in super handy, because we can't really guarantee just because somebody opens an email that they're actually consuming the stuff. But you know, to me, bombarding an inbox is like numerous emails a day, or having bad practices like I send out a newsletter and I'm also in the middle of a launch and I'm sending out numerous emails in a day because I'm not being strategic about how my emails are landing in people's inboxes. So sort of being aware of what that strategy looks like, because this is my sort of like pushback, is that email is still the #1 ROI, which Katie's already mentioned. So it's being conscientious of what works for your list and being aware of that big picture goal, because you have to still, the other side of this is staying top of mind with your people. And if you don't have a good strategy for communicating via email as a channel of communication, then when it comes time for you to launch that product, they're going to be like, who is Judith? I don't remember her, and hit that unsubscribe button. So regularity is important, just not drink from the fire hose.
And to your point, that staying top of mind, you don't want to stay top of mind because you've annoyed them with the frequency with which you're emailing. You know what I mean? Like, you want to stay top of mind because they get value from you. You're respectful of their inbox pretty much. And that's why you're staying top of mind. So they know that when they see an email come through from this person, they want to open it, they want to engage with it.
One of my favorite people to get emails from daily is Donald Miller, who I have a crush on. And he is really great about all things storytelling. And I brought him up also because he kind of was a big like aha light bulb for me about the whole don't be vague as well. So he talks about like when you're writing, like, let's think about it from a website perspective where you have fluffy names for all of your pages, or you've got fluffy email content that makes people have to work to understand what the heck you are actually saying. All you're doing is making somebody else work really hard. And that's like, why make them burn these extra mental calories? Like, at the end of the day, you want them to buy. So make it as easy as humanly possible for them.
Yeah. If they're working too hard, they will. Yes, he does. But I mean, there's sometimes his emails are like 4 sentences sometimes. Like, it's just like a quick shot of value or a quick, hey, actually, Amazon just delivered his new book to me. He just published a new book and it's on my porch right now as we speak. But yes, very good point. Anything else up there, Christy?
And then Kat wanted me to also mention, make sure your links work.
My what?
Make sure that our links work. So before you send out any of that content, blog or email or social copy or what have you, make sure that all your links are going where you want them to go.
Yes, because that's another thing that speaks again to like your know, like, and trust factor. Like, if they know that what they get from you is going to work, is going to get them where they want to go, that's just, it's good best practice, I guess. Was there another one in there, Christy?
I think that's it.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Did you say Donald? Yeah, Donald Miller from Story Brand. Yep.
Yes. Sorry, I missed that one. I was still making sure I didn't miss anything.
He's also a delightful human being to listen to speak. If you can like YouTube him, he's like marketing daddy. He's just delightful to listen to speak. Okay. Any other questions? Anything that's come up? Oh, did he? I didn't know
That's
that.
pretty cool.
He does. So, oh my gosh, that man's amazing. I adore him. I really can't wait to start reading this book. I feel like I've read many books like it, but it's not a Donald Miller book. So to wrap things up really quick, and then we can talk a little bit more if you want to. I want to make an offer to you guys as Automation on a Mission pals. I do copy and content audit sessions where you send me specific copy or specific content. I look through it, I make my recommendations, we talk about it together, I send you away with some next steps and recommendations. Normally these sessions, they're 90-minute sessions, our calls are 90 minutes, and then you send me the stuff beforehand. It's $350, but I'm offering a $50 off discount for my Automation on a Mission pals if you are interested. So if you are, reach out to me and we can do that. It's actually one of my most favorite things to do. So yeah.
I just want to, because I've got something to say about everything today, apparently, is that what I really love about this is that I feel like where this particular group is at, like learning how to actually write good copy is something that's like, this is a rite of passage as a business owner. So even if it's something that at some point in, the future of your growth, you outsource this to someone else, knowing and understanding how to write good copy is only going to help you be able to hire somebody to do it well for you in the future. So Katie's not doing it for you. She's going to actually help you figure out how to do it well for yourself so that the next time it's easier, and the next time it's easier, and the next time you hire somebody else and you know how to articulate to them exactly what it is that you want, need, your voice, all of those things, and they're more likely to be successful at. And I say all of that because I've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs who have thought it was going to be really easy to hire a copywriter, and they find themselves frustrated, spending a lot of money. And then at the end, what do? They rewrite all of the copy, which is a total waste of time and money. So I feel like if you have an opportunity for some coaching around it, like that's a great resource.
Thank you for saying that, because I can't tell you how many clients have been like, just write this. And I'm like, so, but what's your voice? What's your brand? How are you? Like, there's so much that, and like to Christy's point, if you can get pretty darn good at writing, it's almost like you're creating your own brand guide that when you do get to that point that you can outsource and hand it off to somebody else, it's you understand your brand and your voice so well that what you get out of a professional writer is exactly what you need. Because I've been on the other end of that, and it's tough stuff. Yes, Kat.
Okay, so my biggest challenge right now that I think is being impactful and intentional and consistent with my intro, and then also my what's in it for them as it applies to if I do a webinar, if I have an opportunity to talk. I'm trying to really, I have so much content. I'm trying to really pick the things out of my content of like how I want to show up now and to lead people through a journey. So anyway, the question is, are those two things you could help us audit?
Like, so you talk like written, like speeches, like your like written talks and like
not even just a piece of it. Like if it could show up in a speech. It could be on my website.
Okay.
It could be on my social media about me sections. They're very inconsistent. And so where I am now, and they're kind of fluffy. And so I want to take a look at that. I want it to be like, this is what Kat's known for.
Yeah. I mean, that goes back to like, that's speaking to your brand. Like you want to get your brand statement cohesive. That is absolutely, that's something we can do in one of those sessions. The thing that's nice about with these sessions, it's like whatever copy and content you have, if it's written word, if it's Word, yes, we can do that. Like we can look at that, we can work on that. Because a lot of what we'll do in that too is talk about the purpose, talk about how you're going to use this, talk about the audience this is going to be put in front of, because that all matters.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and my speaker sheet, that just what came to me too, if this helps anybody else, is my speaker sheet would be another area to, yeah, to maybe start there and then be able to pull stuff out. Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure, sure.
Was this helpful for folks? Does anybody have any other follow-up questions?
And
This-
feel free to email me too. Go ahead, sorry.
No, this is helpful. Thank you very
Good,
much.
good. It's a lot to know. And like, I mean, I really, as I was putting this together, I was like, this could be multi-day thing if I really wanted it to. So I tend to sort of get verbose when I talk about this stuff. So we pared it down pretty decently.
I think that you did an excellent job of not using industry jargon in your training about not using industry jargon.
Well, good, check.
So I have a takeaway. So I think my last email I did to my list was it was educational, but now that I'm in this conversation, I'm like, I could have made it a lot shorter and done a blog post and sent them to and
Yeah.
included the link to my blog post.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but at the time I was like, just typing away and giving them like yeah. Now that I think about it, I'm going to go back, but it's okay. I did it, and now I can go back and redo it later on, and I have
But you
some
can
content.
also repurpose that email and make it a blog post.
Yeah, but I'm like, oh,
There you go,
I have to go
done.
back. Yeah, I have to go look at my stats, Christy, and see if
Time to use it, reframe it in a different way, deliver it in a different way.
Yeah. And then pull out of that blog post for social posts. And you know what I mean? Like there's a time and place for that long form sort of rambly writing. I shouldn't say rambly, but like doing a blog post like that would be considered a pillar post, something that's really long, all encompassing, tons of information. Using that, if there is a topic that like you have so much to talk about on, awesome. Make it a nice long email, a pillar post, and then use that as foundational to pull a bunch of other content out of. So you are writing an email where the message in your email is short, sweet, to the point. It's your voice. It's, hey, checking in. You got to check this thing out. Like, this is so worth reading. Here's the link to it. Pulling out from that super meaty post and making it into social posts, pulling it out and making it into a webinar topic. Like, this is actually something I did this morning too. So it's on the top of my head, like thinking of that as like that post is like an umbrella topic, and the micro topics that are within it, those become their own bits of content. And what's nice about those is they're specific. So you're not trying to get a ton of information into those little micro topics, because that micro topic is its own little entity. You know what I mean?
And here's a little example of a way that you could use some of that stuff yesterday, Katie and I were actually working on this exact thing for my business. And I've also been sort of like building a new offering, like basically expanding automation on a mission to other niches and that sort of thing. Anyways, so I was looking at what another company who does similar work does. And when someone books an appointment, the thank you page is a library of video resources. And I like my first thought, and I saw it like 6 months ago, maybe even longer than that. And I thought, oh my God, like I don't have that kind of content. But the reality is like, it's all up in here. And over the last like week, I've been redoing all of the automation on a mission videos, and like my standard has lowered. So now perhaps, like this guy's wearing a t-shirt and he's in his office with his little microphone in his face, and like, so why am I worried about like, should I wear the same outfit? Do I have my makeup? Like just make the content, get this, like, but then, like, so now like somebody books that appointment and they immediately have resources to get a taste as to who I am, what I do, all that sort of thing. But it's also amazing value. That's those tiny little snippets. That's like, I don't have to watch an hour-long video where you tell me about your credentials. You're actually going to show me your credentials by giving me something that I didn't already know I needed. So.
Yeah. I mean, really, it comes back to value, like value. What are you providing? To Chrissy's point, I'm putting together a membership right now. And one of the core pieces of my membership are what I call marketing snacks. So they are short little videos. They're going to be probably 4, 5, 7 minutes on the high end. on a micro topic. So speaking on something specific, it's going to be something that you can quickly consume, get a lot of value out of, but it's not impeding on your time. And it's also, I like the list of, I mean, I have to record so much now. I've really made it like annoyingly difficult for myself, but there's a lot there because again, if you step out of that like expert vacuum, you realize there's so much to talk about, and it's beneficial for your audience for you to break it down into those smaller digestible chunks. You know what I mean? So yeah.
One thing that I really took away is that focusing on the benefits, not the features. I feel like when I write, I think like, this is all I have to offer you. Let me keep offering things and giving things. And then, but really it's better to just be like, oh, these are the benefits you're going to get after the features are utilized, because
Yeah.
that's what people are more focused on. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
That's why they can picture themselves. They can see
Yeah.
themselves.
Right. And that's what I was going to say, like you want your writing and your content in general to be, you want it to be transformative. Let me start again. You want your audience to be able to see themselves within your world and see the benefit they will get from being in your world. So it's great that you have all the features. That's cool. But like, how is that all going to make me feel? How is that going to change me? Like, it's like a VCR. I'm 40. So like a VCR has all these features. Cool. But does it play a video? Like, can I just watch a movie on it? You know what I mean? Like, yes, they're coming to you because you're providing a transformation. All the stuff that's in there, that's great. That's cool. But what's my benefit? What's the transformation? And that's it's like a hard thing to get out of. It takes very conscious effort.
One thing that I do think may help move you closer to that is focusing on those case studies, because case studies are where you highlight the difference that you make in the lives of your clients. So if you are writing about how this person started when they went, this is where they were at when they first started working with you, and this is where they're at now, you're not talking about features. You're talking about transformation. You're talking about the difference that you made in that person's life. And now you just take that part, the outcome, and that's exactly what you put into your, or the opposite, like what if you really want to focus on, okay, what happens if I don't take action? This is what your life will look like. You will continue to feel frustrated. You will continue to not lose weight or not make extra money or, all those things.
That's a good point. Actually, one of my clients she's like a health and fitness person. And today we talked about not how I want you to feel, but how I don't want you to feel. Like working with me is going to help you not feel this way.
One of the most transformative sales books I read, and this was a long time ago, I was still of the mindset that I'm not in sales. But he said something to me about, you have to understand buyer behavior. And he said that as consumers, we are either driven to pursue something or we are running away from something. And so overwhelmingly, I want to say it's like 70–80% of us actually are trying to run away from something. We're trying to fix that thing that feels uncomfortable versus like, wouldn't it be nice if? But if you understand what the mindset is of your buyer, then you can speak to are we moving away from a problem or are we moving towards a solution? It's called proactive selling. As it turns out, I still have it. I didn't even remember I had it until the other day.
So people are motivated by pain than like a predictable outcome. So that makes a lot of sense too.
Mm-hmm.
I did this cool exercise where I took testimonials and I took everything that because I had lower self-esteem when I was first starting my business, of course. And I took all the testimonials that I got back and then I would turn them around. So if someone said, Jess made me feel safe and comfortable in this environment on Zoom, I'd be like, I help people feel safe and comfortable during their Zoom meetings. So like, it was really easy to take the testimonials and then turn them around. That's a really fun exercise.
Or clients feel safe when we spend time on Zoom.
Yeah,
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you everyone so much for this. I learned a lot.
Yay.
Linda, you look cold.
Muted. I'm muted and I'm frozen. I'm cold. I have a sore back. I'm not 100% zesty today. I'm going to go lie down. I
hope you
hurt
feel
my
better.
back walking in the snow the other day with a friend.
Oh, no.
So it was like unlevel and it was very emotional. So she's mourning and it was tough.
Yeah.
So it's all sitting in my back. So I'm in physio care.
Okay.
And thank God I got the up and down desk. Otherwise I couldn't even stand to be here this long.
Well, thanks
Mm,
for enduring.
All righty.
yes, thank you for
care.
being here.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys. Hey, Judith, can you hang on for just a quick second? Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Welcome. All right, see you later.
Bye, Katie.